Hi guys, just another little video here, okay, people, and this one will be about we've stepped out of the garden to come to know of good and evil, okay? Now, what exactly does that mean? To come to know of good and evil, okay? What that always the power of the question, people. If you ask the questions, the answers are always there. They're inherently within us, okay? Not on the outside. So everybody's looking for answers on the outside of themselves when all along everything is within. So the power of the question, and it goes like this. If if now we've come out of the garden to know of good and evil, okay, let's ask the question. At one point, was evil necessary, and was evil even factored into that equation? Okay, this is what we're talking about here. So obviously evil wasn't, okay, and I'm going to give you a prime example of how evil becomes evil through programming, okay? Like people say, well, say if you want to get to heaven, you got to go through Jesus Christ, okay? This is all an illusion. I'm going to prove this to you right now. And again, always the power of the question. If a child was born in Mother Nature and never heard anything about world governments and banks and paying taxes and citizenship and say Jesus, right? Team Jesus, right? I play for Team Jesus. So anyhow, okay, people. So anyhow, that the child knows nothing about Jesus, never heard a Bible, seen a Bible, nothing like this. Okay. Now, would this child be going to hell? Can you see this? Okay. Obviously, the child's not going to hell, right? The child's still a child of the garden, and the child only knows good because now the child hasn't stepped out to join armies and pay taxes and, the list goes, claim it's a citizen, claim it's a name, okay, and be brought up and programmed to do this. So the child knows nothing about this stuff. So the child has not stepped out of the garden to come out yet to know of good and evil. The child only knows good. Now, let's jump right into all out sheer evil and programming here, okay, people? And it's this. Satan is the author of confusion, and we are the distributors of it. And it goes like this, okay? Prior, the child was born in nature and knew nothing about government education, did not go to public schools, did not learn how to sing anthems, needed none of this useless information, okay? Needed none of it, right? The child did not have to learn this. But now, okay, the child comes out, and the very first thing going on is people are going to start programming this child. So the child comes out, and the first thing these people say is, well, we need to name this child, okay? Basically a rose by any other name. Okay, so now they name this child and they they've applied a name to a child. Okay, and so now they're cooing and coddling the baby and cooing over the baby. Oh, baby Bill, that's what we're gonna call the child now. And so then so then it's baby Bill. Come here, baby Bill. You want to go play in the sandbox today, Bill? Would you like to go outside? You want to? Okay, Bill. Now get ready for kindergarten. Okay, so the programming. Okay, people. The child was pure, and the child remained in the garden, and the child did not know of evil at all. The child only knew good. It didn't come to know of good. It knew good. See the difference here, people? Okay, so the child knew nothing about evil, and it was pure. Okay. So then the child goes to kindergarten, and it's very first thing, the very first day at school, and class starts, and the teacher says to all the children, "And who are you?" And the little kid puts up his hand and he says, "I'm Bill." And the teacher says, "Hi, Bill. Nice to meet you, Bill. I'm Susan." Okay. Can you see this already? People are claiming things that they are not, which is completely fraud, and this becomes the work of the devil. So then she says this to the other children. I'm Marcia. I'm whatever, right? So anyhow, this goes around the room. So the very next day, these children come to school, and now they're taught to stand up, and we're going to learn how to sing the national anthem. So they're singing "God Save the Queen," "Thank God Our Flag Was Still There," "Oh Canada." I don't care what it is, okay, people. So now the children are singing this anthem by day two. So say day two comes after the anthem, and the child says, "Hi, hey teacher, how come we're singing this anthem?" And the teacher says, "Well, you're an American citizen. Your parents are American, so that thus makes us Americans, and so therefore we sing the American anthem. And the child's kind of looking at you, at the teacher funny, like, why are our parents citizens? So then your parent, so then the child might turn around and say to the teacher, well, why are we American citizens? And the teacher will say, well, because your parents were born here and they were American. Can you see this? People are getting labeled, okay? Already the child is getting labeled to grow up, think that it's Bill, think that it's a US citizen. Look at all the words that apply here, an American tax-paying citizen, the whole 9 yards. So then the child comes out, and the child, every time somebody says, who are you? I'm Bill. Okay, hey, Bill, come here. And the child just automatically gets up and does this, okay, without any thought, right? This is not good. We've stepped out of the garden, and now we're coming to know of evil. And evil is us teaching and programming evil to others who should have nothing to do with this. So the child knew nothing about taxes, knew nothing about names, did not want to be, knows nothing about citizenship, being a citizen, the banking system, the IRS rules, going to public schools. The child knows nothing about this stuff, and already we're bombarding the child with evil and programming the child with this shit. So now the child's singing, I'm Bill, singing the anthem, God Save the Queen, or thank God our flag was still there. All bullshit that people have applied to give stuff meaning, which like effectively should have no meaning. Like this, they'll make this the king of bobby pins, clothesline pins, for God's sakes, and everybody will try to steal it just because we said this is worth $1 trillion. Okay, people. So the whole thing is preposterous. So the child, and then one day, they're talking about taxes in school, and then the child says, well, why do we pay taxes? And the teacher says, well, because we're US citizens, we're Americans. Can you see this? So then the child's going, geez, well, why would we do this, right? It makes no sense to the child, but now we're telling the child that this should make sense to the child. And don't ask any questions. Back to the power of the question. They're saying, don't ask any questions. This is just the way it is. Okay, so again, people have stepped out of not knowing anything to do with evil whatsoever. The child is born in the jungle, and the child is raised properly and forages and does no harm to anything. And is this child going to hell? Does this child need Jesus? You can see how all this stuff, man, is outside of ourselves. When you go to school and you graduate, then you get your grade 12, then you go to college or university, then you become a doctor, then you pay your student debts, and then once you pay your student debts, well, you're trying to make money. You're already in the hole trying to pay your debts, and now you want to start a family and buy a house. So you go and you buy a house and you put yourself in debt again. Everything is outside of yourself. So now people have stepped out of what was naturally good in nature. They didn't have to go to work to buy a carrot and then hop back in their car to show up to the grocery store to buy the carrot. They walked out in the backyard, and if they saw a carrot, they grabbed one, or they planted carrots and grabbed one anyhow. Can you see how all that stuff is outside of yourself? Now I need a car. I got to go buy a car. Now I got to go have insurance. Now I have to have this. Now I have to gas it up. Are my tires good? Are my brakes good? It never stops when it's outside of yourself, but when it's within yourself and not outside of yourself, again, you can see how people outside of themselves is how they've stepped out of the garden to come to know of evil. So we never knew of evil. We only knew good, and we didn't even know what evil was. The child did not know what evil was, but now already the child is growing up to learn things and be programmed to things that is outside of itself and apply meaning to this. It's no different than people say, well, that's my hockey team, right? So then you say, okay, so you own Team Canada or Team USA? Oh, well, that's my team. So you own that team? Again, the question, right? And you'll see how fast it unveils the fraud and the lies. Well, no, it's not my team, but we root for our team. So just because now you think you're a Canadian or an American, a U.S. citizen, whatever, now you think that because they come out and call a team Team Canada, that this is your team. But meanwhile, you don't pay for the players. You're not booking the venues, the arenas. You're not doing the marketing, hiring agents to find these players, and you're not receiving dividends nor any sort of profit off this. And yet people are running around and applying and making something out of nothing that is not even theirs. And this is what it means to have stepped out of the garden, okay? So literally, like, that's my team, then the team wins and everybody's acting like they're winners. Can you see this? But what did they win? They didn't win a goddamn thing, okay? The players on the ice, sure, they may have won a medal and this title of we won the Stanley Cup, and yeah, it's a piece of metal that they can put their hands on, but can you see how everybody's placing all this huge value on this piece of metal when it's just an inanimate object? It would be no different than me placing all this and saying to all these hockey clubs, I want you to play for this clothesline pin today. Do you think they would play for this? And it's only because they put value, which again, in a piece of metal, and getting a little gold medal that ain't worth shit, but they think it's worth something because people are told that it's worth something, because we live in an environment where everybody has to be a winner. And so if we have winners, therefore we have losers. And if we have losers, well, that's not good. Right now we have people running around thinking they're winners. Now we have people thinking they're losers, okay? Can you see the fraud in this, right? Your dog, okay, a prime example. If I give my dog $1 trillion today, do you think my dog's going to be any happier? Do you think my dog's going to think it's a god? Do you think my dog's going to be buying private islands and jets and stuff? Obviously not. Do you think my dog is going to feel rich? Obviously not. Okay, this is all man-made, fabricated bullshit that people have placed value on that has nothing to do with life at all. Explain being a citizen, what it means to be a citizen to the trees and the birds and the bees, and read a constitutional law to your tree today, to your oak tree, and let me know how that goes for you. Nature does not understand stupidity. So this is what it means to have stepped out of the garden. And back to the dog. If I took that $1 trillion away from my dog, it's an inanimate object. My dog has not placed any value or meaning on this nonsense because, again, my dog simply remains in the garden, okay? She only knows of good. Now, should something bad, evil come along, okay, well, and something is trying to disturb the peace, because the dog does not know of evil, now the dog has not been programmed, and the dog will jump in to save you and to protect the family, okay? The dog will not allow women and children to get carted out of the household, okay? The dog will, so you can see that clearly. The dog has never stepped out of the garden, nor has it lost its ability to be godlike, divine, and it's the dog also, if you took this $1 trillion away, would not feel like a bum. Okay, so if I have this, I feel like a god. I'm partying, I have private jets, I have women, I have wine, I have whatever I want. Life is good. But while I'm doing this, thinking I'm awesome and I'm the coolest, you can see how people think they're this, they think they're that. And meanwhile, you were never this, you were never that. The child couldn't be Bill. And Bill is just a name that's been applied to the child, applied. And then they'll literally say to the child, who are you? And the child will say, I'm Bill. The child theoretically should say, the name is Bill. That's what people seem to call me. Not that I approve of it, but this is that simple, okay, people? So now, again, the child keeps going to school and the child keeps getting programmed, and all this stuff was outside of the child, which is pure evil, and everybody is distributing this literally to their kids. Imagine if the child grew up and the child did not have to know anything about all this stuff. The child would remain pure. It's like people will say, like, names. To name something is to maim something, okay? Names negate, okay? To label me is to negate me. And we've negated things. We'll say the geese are Canadian because we call them Canadian geese because they come from a fiction of imagination labeled as Canada. But do they come from Canada? No. These geese are born from other geese. So these baby geese are born from geese, and they come from geese. They don't come from Canada. See again how fast we've unveiled the lies and the fraud. Is no different than people apply names, and they've applied a name to a bird and they'll call it a robin. And does the robin know that we've labeled it or called it as a robin? No, it doesn't. The bird has not stepped out to learn to read or write and all this stuff, which is sheer bullshit, right? People used to think that if they were smart, because they could read and write. But, your dog doesn't read or write. The bird doesn't read or write. Do they think they're smart? Obviously not. They're just being beings, okay? And simply are. They're being beings. They're doing what they do, and they're doing what they have been programmed to do. And unfortunately, we've stepped out of the program, which was nature, now to know of evil. So we've come to know of good and evil. Can you see this, people? It's a real simple story, but people complicate shit all the time. And even if you never knew this story, would you need to know this story? Obviously not. It wouldn't change your life, okay? So this is what's going on. And even the child, right? Like, everybody, oh, you're Bill, and it grows up, and hi, I'm Bill, and now it needs an identity and entity to prove to somebody else, authorities or something, who this child is or whatever. And now, because somebody wrote on a piece of paper that this child is now Bill, it's named Bill, and it now is Bill, that people assume that the child is Bill. Furthermore, if the child did not have that piece of paper to say, give to the authorities, if the police came up and said, "Who are you?" What would that, if the child didn't have a piece of paper, how could the child explain or try to tell somebody who or what they are? The bird couldn't even do this. And meanwhile, the authorities will walk up and say, "Listen, bird, I know you are a robin, and if you cannot prove to me that you're a robin," so meanwhile, we've applied something to the robin that the robin it's not even aware of yet, and it doesn't understand stupid. And literally, we are this stupid where we're walking up to each other saying, "Well, you have to prove what you are. So now you're this, now you have to prove that," right? Now the child grows up. The child was nothing but a creature of the universe and stuff. And we said, "No, thanks, man. We want to corrupt this child." And from day one, man, they're already corrupting these children, right? Can you see this, people? It's this sick, right? And like even Team Canada, they'll purport, I know I'm switching gears here, but Team Canada will purport that they're your team just simply put because people think that they're Canadians, and they say that I'm Canadians, and they put this meaning into something that should mean nothing. If the child grew up and knew nothing about this wouldn't mean shit to the child. So now people are taking the intangible, like what does it mean to be a Canadian, and everybody's got a different meaning. Oh, we live in the greatest country in the earth. There's no wars in our country, so we're the greatest again. Oh, we have the greatest hockey team. Can you see this? They don't have hockey teams. It's not your hockey team. It was ran by some people in the private who made money off this. You didn't. And then when they win, you're claiming that you won. Meanwhile, you didn't win shit. They won. But even then, what'd they win? They won a clothesline pin, for God's sakes, and everybody made this their god and competed like fucktards and bats out of hell to obtain this against one another. So again, can you see how this is not a very just and loving society, right? Obviously, it's not. So people, I can't emphasize this enough, right? Like now the child never wanted to be any of this, okay? The child never wanted to be labeled Bill. The child doesn't even know this, but the child effectively did not want this. The child did not want to be labeled Bill. Now the child is labeled as a U.S. citizen and an American. The child's going to grow up to be a taxpayer. And did the child ask for an ounce of this? Did the child ask for any of this? Can you see how fucking stupid this is, people? This is how fucking far people have gone with stepping out of the garden to now to come and know of good and evil. We only knew good. The birds and bees only know good unless you're trying to fucking do something stupid to them. Nature itself will not do stupid shit to itself because it still remains natural and intact. And unfortunately, we've made the unnatural natural by saying, "Oh, now I'm Bill." How can I be a name? That's just a name on a piece of paper. And so now I need a piece of paper to prove to somebody who I am. And how would that piece of paper prove to somebody who I am anyhow? It's just a fucking name. And just because you called your child Bill, do you think that's special? Do you think the name Bill bears anything special? A million other people called their child Bill. Right? So now fucking somebody says we have a pile of bills in the room, and somebody says, yeah, hey, would Bill please raise your hand? And fucking 1,000 of them raise their hands because they all think they're Bill. Can you see this? Now they're thinking about something, and when you're thinking about something, it's completely fucking unnatural to you people, and that's why you have to think about it, and then you're in a mess if you're thinking about it. It's like good thoughts don't think about shit, okay? Like I could be hungry and not even realize I'm hungry and walk up to a pear tree and grab a fucking pear without even thinking about it, okay? This would be good. A prime example of good is my hands. I'm not thinking about my hands right now or my hand, but if I fucking whacked it with my thumb with a hammer, it would hurt. And now I'm thinking about it. Now I'm thinking about how I have to deal with it, how I have to make my thumb better. Can you see that now we've stepped out of the garden and we've whacked ourselves? Literally, we've taken a hammer to our heads, man. Talk, 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 talk. And, you know, and we just buy into everything. And again, the child never asked to fucking be anything. And already people are purporting and proposing on the child and bombarding the child with stupidity. You're a citizen. Meanwhile, how could the child have been a citizen, man? The child ever walk up and apply and say, hey, can I apply to be a citizen here? Did the child ever ask for a social security number, a social insurance number? And already the child is being sent this shit to the parents to assume, make an ass out of you and me, that this child is a fucking citizen. Can you see this? So now the child was pure and innocent, had nothing to do with this shit, wanted nothing to do with this shit. And we came along and said, no, that's just the way it is, man, because your parents were citizens, you're a citizen, and oh, what's your name, and who are you? And now the child thinks that a name on a piece of paper is now him. I'm Bill. Can you see this? It's not, the name is Bill. That's what people have labeled me with. Can you see this, people? Okay. I can't emphasize this enough. It's this simple. Always the question will unveil the fraud, okay? Those who look within and ask themselves questions and close their eyes, only when the eyes are closed will the mind truly see. And again, something that is good, you are not thinking about it at all. You are on autopilot and you're not thinking about shit, okay? And that's when you know you're in the zone, you're in tune with the frequency, okay? I play guitar, and if I'm thinking about what I'm doing, I suck. The minute I throw that out the window, man, and I'm not thinking and I'm on autopilot, that's when the magic happens, people. And aren't we supposed to be magical, wonderful, divine, wonderful beings? Is that not what we are supposed to be? And then we're programmed that everything is outside of yourself, man. You're now this, you're now that, you're going to be that. Now you're a child in kindergarten. Now you're a pupil. Now you're a U.S. citizen. Now you're an American. Now you're a taxpayer. Now you work for somebody else. Can you see this? You're not working for yourself. You're working for somebody else. Everything is always or else. It's always on the outside. And simply put, that's the outside is we've stepped out of the garden. That's the outside, right? That's all the evil. As within, so without. So if we remained within and we didn't look outwards, look at the words, outwards, war, outward, take the D and S out, and everything's a war, man. Everybody's looking forward to the future. They're looking rearwards, backwards. All these words have war in it, man, and everything's a mess. And, you did not have to step out of the garden and live in a world full of the message. It's back to people. Back in the day, they could read and write. They could take advantage of the people who couldn't read and write because the people didn't understand what reading and writing was about. So can you see, again, by people thinking that they're smart and using all these words and stuff to confuse people and steal all their stuff? Can you see how this is very unloving? And then the people who couldn't read and write went, hey, wait a second here. We're getting tricked and we're being taken for everything we own. We have to learn to read and write. But what they learned to read and write is what these people taught them, who was all coming from liars to begin with. Okay, and now you're still getting ripped off, and your governments are doing this to you every day, and people think now that they're smart because they can read and write. Does your dog think it's smart because it can't read and write? Obviously not. Would your dog be cool if it had $1 trillion? Think it's awesome? Obviously not. Would your dog think it's cool if it doesn't have an ounce of any money in its pocket? Obviously not. Does the dog understand read and write Japanese, Muslim, Judaism, Hebrew? Obviously not. Sanskrit? Your dog does not care. And that's why this shit is called a spell, people. And people are put in a spell. Now, try to put your hands on being a U.S. citizen. What does it mean to be a U.S. citizen? Oh, I'm so proud. And so you're proud of absolutely nothing. Somebody waves a flag. I'm going to wave this bobby pin, and now everybody's going to put this, oh, that's the greatest bobby pin. We live in the greatest country of the bobby pin. Can you see how fucking stupid this is, people? You live inside your body, for God's sakes, man. Like, you know what I mean, people? Like, I'm not getting aggressive here. I'm not taking any emotions and whatsoever. But like, it's just that simple. And people have stepped out of the garden, man. We had everything, and then we said, no, thanks. We want to complicate the shit out of it. And we forgot that we are living, and now we're trying to live again. Can you see this, right? Ask your dog who it is. And if your dog, your dog's not going to tell you. Your dog might respond when you say its name, but that's only because it's been programmed to respond to that name. Otherwise, your dog wouldn't respond to that name, and your dog wouldn't need a name to respond. All you'd have to do is this. Okay, you follow me, people, right? Silence is the language, and anything outside of silence is unnatural and is now in the world of the spell. And back to the poor people, they learned how to read and write only to get taken advantage of and tricked again, thinking that they know what these words mean, and they know how to spell, and now they're smarter, right? And everybody always has the answer, and I know what's best for you people, but you don't, so you should listen to me. Then the next guy is going, I know what's best for you people, you should listen to me. The third guy, the fourth guy, the fifth girl, the sixth girl, whatever. It keeps going, and everybody's a pile of experts. They've all been conquered and divided, and meanwhile, nothing gets done. And because everybody is smarter and everybody knows better, right? Meanwhile, your dog's not thinking it's better or faster, trying to be better or faster, trying to compete with, you follow me, people? And look at the words Darwinian, Darwin, Darwin, Arwin, right? Again, everything's a competition. It's about survivalism, and you people weren't meant to fight each other to survive. That's called a competition. You're meant to simply not fight anybody, walk out in your backyard, grab a peach from the tree or a pineapple, whatever it was you wanted, as opposed to going to buy a car, finance a car, putting gas in that car, making sure the car is insured, making sure the car is completely, and you follow me, man? We've gotten miles away from ourselves, man, and we're always looking forward to something, for war that is outside of ourselves, and then they're working these jobs, so now they're trying to be the king of war by who has the most money, and then they feel like gods, and if we rip that money away from them tomorrow, they'd feel like a complete fucking bum, okay? We were supposed to remain logical, not emotional, and again, being emotional is the work of evil, okay? The child comes out not being all crazy and emotional and shit like that. The child will always remain pure. The minute the child starts thinking, it's no different than a thumb. You whack it, it's a bad thumb. You're thinking about this. You can't do what you have to do today because your thumb is sore. This has now become a bad thumb. We've stepped out of the garden that way. If we're not thinking about the thumb, we're back in the garden, and only we know of good because we don't have to think about it. You follow me? And to not think about what is good. You know what I mean, people? I can't make this shit up. So anyhow, this is a fairly long video. I think I've said enough. Stop believing in all this stuff. Stop programming your children that, oh, little Bill, oh, now you're Bill. It's not your name. The name is Bill that we've given to you. And even then, how could somebody give you something? It's totally intangible. And now people think that they're going to carry around an entity, another entity with you when you already are an entity, in order to prove that you're somebody. And then the police say, who are you? And you give them an id entity, and a piece of paper tells them who you are. Can you see how completely preposterous and fraudulent this is? It's fraud on you, it's fraud on the creator, and it's fraud on us for imposing this on on life, period. It's that serious. Anyhow, I send you all green lights. Much peace. Till then, please keep your heads up, your sticks on the ice, and till then, namaste, cheers, bye, peace.